Have you ever frozen in place, your breath catching, as life seemed to weave a moment so perfect it defied explanation? Imagine this. You're wandering through a crowded market, the air alive with the chatter of vendors and the smoky aroma of grilled street food, when a stranger presses a crumpled flyer into your hand. It's for a concert you'd been secretly hoping to attend, one you hadn't even mentioned aloud. The odds feel astronomical, yet there it is, a spark that makes your skin tingle. These moments aren't just quirks of chance, my friend. They're the universe tapping you on the shoulder, urging you to listen. Let me share a story about Lila Harper, a 34-year-old graphic designer who once believed life was a game of random rolls. Lila lived in a quiet coastal town, her days a whirlwind of deadlines, her evenings spent sketching by the glow of a single lamp. She used to shrug off coincidences, like the time she stumbled across a book on meditation in a dusty thrift store, just as her anxiety was spiraling. But one stormy afternoon, everything shifted. She was in a cafe, the windows streaked with rain, the air warm with the scent of fresh coffee, when a stranger named Evan, a 40-year-old poet with a crooked smile and a scarf frayed at the edges, dropped his pen under her table. They started talking, and Evan mentioned an art retreat Lila had been dreaming of but couldn't afford. He was the organizer, he said, and offered her a scholarship on the spot. Lila's instinct was to call it luck, to laugh it off as a fluke. But as she sat there, the rain drumming a steady rhythm, she felt a deeper pull, like a tide tugging at her core. What if this wasn't random? What if life was whispering something she'd been too distracted to hear? That moment became her turning point, the first time she saw the world as more than a chaotic machine. The concept of synchronicity, coined by Elias Moreau, a Swiss psychologist who was 62 in 1925, isn't some whimsical theory. It's a window into the universe's hidden pulse, a structure that hums with purpose. Elias, his study lined with leather-bound journals and flickering candlelight, spent years exploring why certain events seemed to align with uncanny precision. He believed these meaningful coincidences were the universe mirroring our inner world, reflecting our deepest hopes and fears. But here's the trick. You have to notice them. Most of us, like Lila once did, trudge through life with our eyes on the ground, drowned in the buzz of notifications and endless to-do lists. We miss the stars above because we're too busy staring at the cracks in the sidewalk. Think of a time when life handed you exactly what you needed, a friend's call just as loneliness crept in, or a job offer when you were ready to give up. These aren't accidents. They're the universe saying, "I'm here. Are you listening?" Now, let's dive deeper, like divers plunging into the unseen depths of the mind. Synchronicity isn't some parlor trick. It's psychology at its most profound, the interplay between your unconscious and the world around you. Picture your mind as a vast sea, its surface shimmering with daily thoughts, but its depths churning with intuitions and patterns you rarely glimpse. Elias Moreau called these moments mirrors of the soul, where reality reflects your inner landscape. Take Noah Bennett, a 29-year-old teacher who felt stuck in a loop of unfulfilling relationships. Noah was a poet at heart, always jotting verses in the margins of his lesson plans, but he carried a quiet scar, a fear of abandonment from his childhood, when his father vanished without a goodbye. For years, Noah kept crossing paths with people who echoed this pain, partners who were emotionally distant, leaving him feeling invisible. He called it bad luck, But Elias's work suggests something else. These weren't random meetings, they were synchronicities, life's way of showing Noah the wounds he needed to heal. One chilly evening, Noah wandered into a bookstore, the air thick with the musty scent of old pages and the faint clink of teacups. There, at a poetry reading, he met Clara, a 32-year-old therapist with a warm laugh and eyes that seemed to see right through him. Clara read a poem about mending broken pieces, and as they chatted afterward, she mentioned a workshop on emotional resilience. Noah felt a spark. This was the third time that week he'd heard about this workshop, first in a random email, then on a podcast. He signed up, and over months of soul-searching, he began to untangle his fears, learning to trust himself. The synchronicities didn't fade. They grew sharper, guiding him toward people and moments that felt like they belonged. Elias taught that our unconscious is always at work, catching patterns our logical mind misses. When you're in tune with your true self, your passions, your values, the universe responds with events that feel custom-made. But if you're ignoring your inner voice, those synchronicities can feel like alarms, sometimes soft, sometimes deafening. Noah's journey shows that life isn't a lottery. It's a canvas, and your thoughts, feelings, and beliefs are the colors you paint with. Let's get bolder. What if every coincidence was a piece of a map, a living guide to your purpose? Not a pirate's chart with a red X, but a dynamic blueprint that shifts with your choices. To read it, you need to wake up, to hone your senses until the world's subtle signals shine like lanterns in the dusk. Consider Maya Torres, a 45-year-old nurse and single mother who always sensed she was meant for more. Maya's life was a marathon of hospital shifts and raising her 14-year-old daughter Sophie in a small apartment that smelled of lavender from the candles she lit to unwind. She'd buried her dream of writing, convinced it was a luxury she couldn't afford. But one summer, a cascade of synchronicities jolted her awake. It began when Sophie brought home a library book on storytelling, slipped into her backpack by mistake. Then, at the hospital, a patient named Arthur, a 70-year-old retired novelist with a voice like gravel, shared tales of his writing life, urging Maya to put her stories on paper. Days later, she spotted a flyer for a free writing workshop pinned to a community board, its edges curling in the humid air. Each moment felt like a clue, a trail leading to a path Maya had avoided. Fear told her she was too old, too tired, but the universe was relentless. One sleepless night, with the hum of the fridge as her only companion, Maya sat at her kitchen table, the moonlight casting shadows on the linoleum, and started writing. Stories spilled out of her childhood in a mountain village, the crunch of frost underfoot, the tang of wild berries on her tongue. She joined the workshop, and within months, her short story appeared in a local magazine. Maya's life didn't change overnight, but she felt a fire rekindled, as if she'd finally answered a call she'd been dodging for decades. Synchronicity isn't just a mirror, it's a compass. It points you toward your purpose, your true self, but it demands bravery. You have to step out of the rut of routine, to challenge the rational voice that dismisses these moments as meaningless. Elias believed the unconscious is a master weaver, threading connections between your inner world and the outer one. Ignore these threads, and life feels dull, like a song stuck on the wrong note. Follow them, and your life begins to hum with meaning. Here's where it gets raw. Living in sync with synchronicity isn't a warm, fuzzy journey. It's a dare to break free from the numbness of autopilot. It asks you to trust your intuition, that quiet nudge that speaks when logic falls short. And that takes courage. Meet Julian Carter, a 52-year-old architect who'd built a safe life. Steady job, suburban house, predictable days. But beneath the polished surface, Julian was restless. He loved photography, capturing the way dawn light spilled over city rooftops or the fleeting joy in a stranger's smile. Yet he'd relegated it to a hobby, too impractical to pursue. One winter, a string of coincidences forced him to reconsider. It started when his old camera, untouched for years, fell from a shelf and landed open, revealing a faded photo of his late mother, a painter who'd always championed his creativity. Days later, a colleague mentioned a photography contest, and that same week, Julian overheard a stranger at a diner, a woman with a voice like warm honey, talking about a gallery seeking new artists. These moments felt like fate's conspiracy. Julian could have brushed them off, but a memory stirred. His mother's laughter, her paint-stained hands urging him to capture what you see. He entered the contest, spending nights in his attic, the air heavy with the scent of old wood, editing photos under a bare bulb. His entry didn't win, but it caught a curator's eye, leading to an exhibition. For the first time, Julian felt alive, not just going through the motions. Elias's work reminds us that intuition is a skill. The more you trust it, the stronger it grows. Synchronicities aren't random prizes. They're invitations to act, to lean into the part of you that knows before your mind catches up. Julian's story shows that when you answer these calls, life aligns in ways that feel almost enchanted, not because you're forcing it, but because you're moving with the universe's flow. Now, let's step back and see the grander view. Synchronicity doesn't just guide your personal path. It connects you to something immense, what Elias called the collective unconscious, a shared well of human experience. Every coincidence is a thread in a cosmic tapestry, weaving your story into the stories of others across time. Think of Amara Singh, a 27-year-old musician who felt adrift after moving to a new city. Amara's guitar was her anchor, its strings frayed from years of midnight strumming. One spring day, busking in a park, the air sweet with blooming jasmine, she met Leo, a 78-year-old former jazz pianist with a face etched by decades of music and loss. Leo shared stories of his career, his voice carrying the weight of dreams chased and abandoned. He handed Amara a flyer for a music festival, saying, "This belongs to you." That night, she dreamed of performing on a stage, the crowd's applause pulsing through her. When she woke, the flyer was on her nightstand, though she swore she'd left it in her bag. This wasn't just a coincidence. It was a bridge between Amara's journey and the collective dreams of artists through history. She played at the festival, her music raw and electric, and it sparked a collaboration that launched her career. Elias believed synchronicities tap into archetypes, universal patterns like the mentor or the creator that ripple through humanity's shared psyche. When you encounter a meaningful coincidence, you're not just touching your own story, you're part of a larger symphony, one that echoes across centuries. Here's the game changer. You're not a spectator in this dance. You're a co-creator. Your thoughts, emotions, and intentions send waves into the universe, shaping the synchronicities you meet. Live with doubt, and you'll attract hurdles. Live with openness, and paths will unfold. It's not about wishing harder. It's about tuning your inner frequency to the life you're meant to live. What if you could not only spot synchronicities, but summon them? Picture yourself at the edge of a forest, the air cool with the scent of damp earth, knowing each step could call forth signs from the universe. This isn't a daydream. It's the art of living with intention, of aligning your inner world to invite the coincidences that shape your destiny. Meet Zara Kim, a 38-year-old entrepreneur who stumbled into this power. Zara had spent years building a tech startup, her life a blur of code and conference calls, but she felt empty, like a fire gone cold. One spring, burned out and searching, she took a solo trip to a mountain village. In a tiny bookstore, the floorboards creaking underfoot, she found a journal with a quote embossed on the cover. "What you seek is seeking you." It hit her like a thunderbolt. She bought it and began writing daily, not just schedules, but her deepest desires: travel, art, connection. Back home, Zara noticed changes. A client mentioned a retreat in Bali, echoing a trip she'd journaled about. A friend gifted her a painting class, aligning with her wish to create. These weren't random. They were responses to the energy she was radiating. Zara started experimenting, setting intentions each morning, picturing her goals vividly: the crash of ocean waves, the weight of a brush in her hand. The more she focused, the more synchronicities appeared, like constellations brightening in a clearing sky. She met a mentor who helped her shift her business towards sustainable travel, weaving her passions into a new purpose. Elias's insights support this. The universe doesn't distinguish between desire and fear. It responds to your dominant energy. Zara's story shows that synchronicity isn't passive. You can shape it by curating your thoughts, choosing curiosity over skepticism, trust over despair. Try this for a week. Write down one intention daily, something that sparks joy. Then watch for signs, people, opportunities, even dreams that reflect your focus. It's like planting seeds and trusting the earth to nurture them. This isn't about control, it's about partnership. You're not bending life to your will, you're dancing with a partner who knows your rhythm. Zara's life didn't become flawless, but it became purposeful. Each synchronicity a reminder she was part of a greater story. You hold this power too. The universe is always listening. What will you ask it to mirror back?